Hey, what is up, guys? Christian here, and today I'm going to be doing my top 5 bass baits for spring. Now, this includes all different periods of spring. The spawn, post-spawn, and pre-spawn. All these baits cover that. So let's get right into that. So, first bait that I have right here is for the pre-spawn, and it is a Senko. Now, people might disagree with this. They can disagree all they want, but these are baits that work specifically for me. So, a Senko, I like pitching Senkos. A Senko works for every type of period because you can peg it with a weight, or you can just Texas rig it weightless, which I normally do. But for all the periods, you can flip it on a bed and have it flutter down, whether you're wacky rigging it or Texas rigging it. Either way, you're gonna get those strikes because Senko's never failed me. You can flip them on beds and just twitch it, and that gets bass, specifically female bass, angry when you jig it on their eggs. That makes them get a reaction strike on you, and usually they'll thump it pretty hard. This also works great for males guarding the beds and stuff like that. So, bait number 1, Senko. This is not in any specific order, either just baits. So, yeah, that's bait 1. My next bait, which people will probably agree with me, is a jig. Now, a jig works for all different types of periods too, specifically the spawn and the post-spawn. Now, with the spawn, jigs work. Jig works. Sorry, I got these mixed up. Jig works for the spawn and the pre-spawn. You can catch them on after the post-spawn too, but that hasn't worked for me very well. So, for the pre-spawn, jigs work great because the water temperature is starting to warm up. Bass are still lethargic, meaning they don't want to chase their baits, and that's when I pull out a jig, because you can really keep it in one place and just twitch it in front of the bass's face until they eventually get aggravated and strike it. Same thing with the beds. You can flip a jig on a bed, get that crawfish to stand up, and get those male bass angry and have them hit it almost instantly. Most of them come when the jig is falling. So, once again, water clarity and what type of forage the bass feed on is what color of jig you want to choose. Right here I have a green pumpkin purple flake jig. I just picked this because it mimics almost anything. It mimics crawfish very well and a bluegill. I live up in the Northeast, so bass are a little different here than they are in Texas and Alabama. So, yeah, so that jig. Where did I put those baits? Oh, they're there. Alright, so next bait kind of goes along with a jig. It is a craw. Now, craws without being on the back of jigs as a jig trailer work great for. I usually use them with a bullet weight, Texas rigging them, because the craws alone get very good reaction strikes when they're standing up in that defensive posture. My personal favorite is the craw pappy. But craws work great for bass that have seen jigs a lot and they're a little bit finicky. Bullet weighted crawfish Texas rigged has never failed me. Once again, same with all these baits, water clarity and the type of forage the bass eat, depending on what part of the United States you live in, if you even live in the United States, kind of depends on what it is, because different parts of the world, craws have different colors. Living in the Northeast, they're usually a greenish color like this. So, crawfish work great back for jig trailers and normal. Now, this one is during the spawn and post-spawn square bill crankbait. Once again, water clarity, forage depends a lot on the baits. Here I have a relatively big square bill crankbait in a natural shad pattern, and here I have a smaller square bill crankbait in a brim color. So square bill crankbaits work great during the spawn because if you have shallow beds, you can get the crankbait to kind of go along like this on the beds with that wobble it has to make it look like it's eating the eggs, which gets those reaction strikes. And having the crankbait just hover across the bed kind of gets the males fired up, getting that reaction strike because they chase off all the fry going around the beds. Males are very protective of beds during the spawns, so that's what square bill crankbaits are good for. You want to match the hatch with square bill crankbaits because if you have a lot of bluegill, if you're fishing a pond, so to say, with bluegill in it, you don't want to throw a shad pattern. That will sometimes work, but mainly you want to match the hatch with the forage, like this brim, which acts as a bluegill as well. So, square bill crankbaits, great baits for spawn and post spawn. My next bait and final bait is a frog during the spawn. Now, you guys are probably going to disagree with this, but this works for the pre-spawn and spawn because I took a frog out today at a pond that the water temperature is just starting up, the bass are just starting to move up, and I caught 36 fish on a frog. Not this specific frog, the frog I was using is in there on one of my rods, but frogs work great during the spawn and pre-spawn if you work them correctly. Now, during the pre-spawn, you want to work a frog very slowly because those fish are still a little lethargic. Water temperature is just starting to warm up. You want to move that frog very slowly. But during the spawn, you can speed it up a little bit because those male bass still are very protective of the beds, and if you're fishing shallow beds, frogs get male bass fired up because frogs dive to beds and do eat bass eggs. I've seen it happen before, so burning a frog or slowly twitching a frog across the top of the water. Sorry guys, I'm getting distracted. I'm watching TV. Stanley Cup Finals. Playoffs, my bad. But frogs, they get bass fired up because bass don't like anything messing with their eggs. Once again, water clarity and what the bass forage on really depends because a frog doesn't just imitate a frog. It imitates bait fish on the top. It imitates birds. Anything that really flutters on top of the water that bass will eat. So, yeah, water clarity forage determines the color as well. So, keep in mind, guys, this is just my top 5 baits that work for me during these time periods in the spring. Stay tuned for more videos in the past, and I'm sorry I have not been posting a lot. I have been very busy with school and stuff like that. So, stay tuned for more video, guys, and this is Flipcast Bass out.